We're here today to talk about domestic violence awareness. And in Detroit Lakes, domestic violence is a serious and significant issue. We collectively work with it as a staff. We see it in our community, we see it in our schools, in our families, in workplaces, and we want to help people recognize what it could look like in your own relationship, but maybe how to recognize if someone that you care about is experiencing domestic violence as well.
So domestic violence is any kind of abuse, whether it be physical, emotional, psychological, that takes place under a roof, so between family members or in a relationship. So it's a pretty common stigma that domestic violence is just maybe a man abusing a woman, but it's a lot more complicated than this. It could be between family members, it could be parent, child. There's so many different dynamics that go into it. And so we just kind of wanted to talk to you today about what that can look like, and like Anna was saying, what we can do to help if this is something that you or someone you love is experiencing.
And I think like Grace said too, you know, it's not just men victimizing women. We do see women as perpetrators as well. It can be between siblings, parents and children and boyfriends, girlfriends, and it doesn't matter the socioeconomic status of the individuals. You know, we've helped people who have been teachers, medical professionals, city employees, city government employees, and so I think it's really important for us to get across, like, don't be afraid to come in and ask for help. If you think your relationship doesn't feel right, if you think someone in your life is going through some challenges, please speak up and come in and meet with an advocate.
Yeah, it happens to people of all ages also.
Right.
So we have a domestic violence shelter here on site, and we see victims as young as newborns up to senior citizens in their 60s, 70s, 80s even. So it definitely isn't limited to a certain group of people or age of people.
Yeah, and the sad reality is that very often we see generational, where maybe it was someone that we helped in an advocacy department, 10, 15 years ago, and they had a child, and now that child is coming in to receive services. And so that's one thing that we really work hard to try to break that cycle, that generational cycle, because even if you grew up in something that you thought, I absolutely won't do this, I absolutely won't put up with it, if that is your life and that's the nature that you grew up in, it's very likely that you're going to end up in that same situation without some intervention.
It's very hard to break that cycle of violence. That's one of the things that we do here is we support the victims. We don't just give them the physical things they need, but we support them long term with support groups, domestic violence support groups, so that they can build themselves up, so that they can break that cycle and maybe make a better outcome for their children.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is the people that abuse other people are sometimes very, very good at what they do, and it's not something that you usually see on a first date or a second date. They're strategic about it often, and so a lot of us, I think, oh, I would never get myself into that situation or something like this, but it's a lot more complicated than that, and we wanted to also talk about some of the things to look out for that might be present in your relationship or a dynamic in your household.
Yeah, and I think of how many times I'm sure we've all heard, like, well, why in the world didn't you just leave? Or why didn't you just go? Well, like Steph said, it doesn't happen on the first date. They don't disclose, oh, I have an abusive history, or I have anger management issues, but it can evolve over time. And even things like trying to isolate their victim, saying that I don't like your friends, or your friends are trouble, your friends are bad news, or your parents hate me. And pretty soon, your circle is getting smaller and smaller and smaller because they've isolated you from your supports. And so getting out on your own isn't so easy, and that's where the crisis center and our staff come in.
Another red flag that we've been seeing a lot of is with the age of technology, tracking people's phone, or even like going through your phone, like making sure, like if in a relationship someone's checking all of your texts, and like tracking is a big thing that we've seen a lot of lately, either putting a tracker on your phone or putting a tracker even in a car or a purse or something like that. That's definitely a really worrisome form of control. So if that's something that you or someone you know is experiencing, maybe it's a good idea to start looking at other parts of the relationship and talking to someone that you trust, or coming in here to talk to one of our advocates about what we can do to keep you safe and make sure that it doesn't get further or worse than that.
And I don't want to say it's rare, but it doesn't always start out physical.
Right.
It can be very damaging words to just kind of chip away at your self-esteem, make you question yourself, like maybe I'm going crazy, kind of gaslighting you.
They use a lot, the abuser will use a lot of power and control over their victim to kind of almost brainwash them into thinking that they can't leave, or it's their fault, or they might even control the money in the relationship, so that if you did want to leave, you have no place to go, you have no car, you have no money. So even the thought of leaving is just so far-fetched.
Yeah, it can be just overwhelming. If your family, finances, job, and I know we've seen too where, my abuser has a very good job. I don't want to, if I go public with this and get help, he or she is going to lose their job. They're going to be, or they'll be, ridiculed, or people will think bad of him or her, and still that victim in kind of that protector mode. Keep it all together.
Yeah, we hear a lot of, I don't want my abuser to get into trouble. I just want the abuse to stop. I want to stay with him, and I want him to be a father or a mother to our children. I just want it to stop.
Yeah, I want it to be like it was in the beginning, because it didn't start out horrible. Typically,
it usually doesn't start horrible.
So we have advocates here that help to write orders for protection and restraining orders. And so if this is a thought that you're having, I don't want them to get in trouble, but I need to keep myself and my family safe. We do recommend that you come in and talk to an advocate about getting help with writing an order, because this doesn't automatically put the person in jail or anything like that. It can make it so that they can't harass you, they can't abuse you, they can't have contact with you. And so if you have questions about this or want further information, we do really encourage you to either come in or call, because we are here to help.
Yes, and there are other things to think about too. If there's abuse in the home and there are young children in the home, there could be an instance where it's a failure to protect the child or children, and we want to help the entire family too. So please come in. Don't be afraid. We aren't going to force anyone to do anything. This is, you're in charge, and we're not going to suggest or have you do something that you don't feel comfortable with. We just want to make sure that you have the resources and that you know what's available to keep you and your family safe.
Even if it's just as simple as coming in or calling just to talk to an advocate for some advice. Or what do you think? Is this abuse? Sometimes I don't know if it's abuse or not. Just having that person to talk to that's not really involved in the situation.
Completely unbiased.
An unbiased perspective of, is this abuse? Is this a concern? Advocates are here to help with that.
And if you wanted, you could also call anonymously. Like, you don't have to share your name. You don't have to share the name of the partner or the family member that you have that's hurting you. If you just want to talk through something as a hypothetical, we're always happy to do that as well. So another thing that we wanted to talk about is if you see someone in your personal life that you think might be experiencing abuse, whether it's emotional, physical, or psychological, we want you guys to have some skills and knowledge to be able to help that person. The main thing that we say is best to do is to validate the person and let them know that they're not alone and that you can be a safe person to talk to if you want to.
Yeah, and providing resources, like suggesting the crisis center without telling them necessarily what to do. Because if they're in an abusive relationship, they've likely been told what to do and have felt a lack of their own power and control over the direction of their life. But if they come in, call, email us, we'll connect them with an advocate who will work one-on-one with them through the entire process, advising them of their rights, advising them of what some options they have for safety. But first and foremost, if a situation seems abusive that a friend or loved one is in, please don't turn your back. As scary as it can be, and potentially dangerous, please, they need the support, emotional, maybe they need a ride. Maybe it's as simple as they don't have a means to get to us. So offer a ride or brainstorm, offer them a place to stay if they need it, if you can accommodate that.
Right.
And then of course we have our shelter here on site for women and children. All of our programs, I should mention, are available to men, women, and children. However, for safety and confidentiality, the shelter is just for women and children. But we welcome you to come in if you need space.
Right. So we talked about advocates and we talked about shelter. Some of the other programs that we have here include our mental health program. So I am a mental health therapist that is employed here at the Crisis Center, and I provide mental health therapy services to children 12 and older and adults. So specifically, if you've experienced any type of trauma, whether it be domestic violence, sexual assault, bullying, anything like this, but really anyone can benefit from mental health therapy services. I think we all can, really everyone can. It's very validating and helpful sometimes just to have someone to talk through things with. One of the other services that we have here is a domestic violence support group. That group is on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. And this could be if you've experienced domestic violence in the past, or maybe you're still in it and kind of unsure about how to leave, or just, not really sure of what your options are. We would always love to have people join our group, and you can do this just by calling us and saying that you're interested in joining group.
And even just having that camaraderie in the group of other people who can identify with you and can relate to your experiences and validate you. It's just a safe place to come together. Another form of support groups that we offer is in area schools. And unfortunately, the things that particularly Grace and Stephanie have heard when facilitating those support groups is there's definitely violence that's going on between teens, and they need resources.
Yes.
And they want to talk. What we found is it's not exactly what we were expecting, but they want to talk, and they want to learn about healthy relationships, and they want to be respected.
Right.
But they don't always know what they can ask for as far.
It's like we were talking about before, breaking the cycle of domestic violence or even trauma. It doesn't have to necessarily be violence. It could be drug use in the home. It could be, a range of things. But it's hard for kids growing up, if they grew up in that cycle, if they grew up in that environment, they really don't know any different. So sometimes some of the things that they experience really, that's normal. That's their normal.
Yeah, that's their normal.
So to have a support group where they can talk to other kids about their experiences and just know that they're not the only ones going through it really can make a difference in their lives. And I think give them a little peek of what life should be like. And the future it's not so grim, and they can,
the peer support.
Right.
I think to understanding that okay, she went through the same thing.
Very validating.
Yes. Absolutely. So we would invite you to call, stop in, please seek out our services if you need help. Our number is 218-847-8572. You can also, we have social media presence. You can reach out through our Facebook page if that's a safe way. You know, maybe using the phone isn't the safest way to contact us, but we are available when you need us, and we are compassionate and passionate about this issue and are here to help you.
This video is brought to you in part by Stellar Human Services, mental health services for children and adults.